Thank you, Ms. Yiying Xiong, for accepting my invitation on today's podcast on the transformation of the energy sector in Ethiopia. For the sake of our listener, Ms. Yiying, you are an executive in renewable energy and associate director at Great Lakes Bioenergy. You are also a member of the review board International Journal of Sediment Research and also editorial board member of Energy Nexus, which is an international journal. Thank you once again very much for accepting our invitation to this podcast. We just have 15 minutes. Thank you very much. We just have 15 minutes, so I'll straight away go on to our first question. According to the World Bank, over the past decade, the Ethiopian government has launched a successful electrification program, extending the electricity grid to nearly 60% of the country. However, 60 million people still lack access to reliable and affordable electricity. Can the promotion of off-grid solutions, in Ethiopia or Sub-Saharan Africa in general, and the increased participation of the private sector in the country renewable energy industry be seen as the panacea for achieving sustainable goal number 7? Ms. Yiying.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me on this discussion. I would say, I wouldn't call that panacea. However, off-grid solutions is a very key component of achieving the SDG 7, especially in developing countries where the power grid is not as a broad coverage in the country. We only have so many options for providing energy to people, and in remote areas, we may not have existing infrastructures to provide that kind of access to people. So off-grid solutions are a very, very important component of it. And of course, there's also the mini-grid and microgrid type of solutions. Those are very similar. You try to focus on a small area and you do smaller scale developments that can provide the energy for local people without having to build long-term and big infrastructure. Sometimes it's not even feasible realistically, right? However, there is a very key component on top of providing energy, which is energy reliability, right? A lot of the off-grid options are solar panels, for example, and sometimes wind. Right. But these sources are sporadic, and you can have prolonged, cloudy weather, for example. You don't have enough sunshine to power the PV panels. Then what do, right? So in these kind of solutions, in my opinion, it's also important to think about storage, energy storage in a small scale. Again, the battery storage is a great solution for things like that. It will add some cost and there will be some reduction in generation. However, it does provide that benefit of a more sustainable, more steady energy supplies for the area. So I think it's very important to think about the combination of energy storage and the off-grid solutions.
Thank you very much. We cannot really have a podcast on the transformation of energy industry in Ethiopia without talking about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which is the largest in Africa. According to the Economist Journal, it has a reservoir capable of holding 74 billion cubic meters of water, more than the volume of the entire Blue Nile. When filled, according to the Economist still, it is expected to produce 6,000 megawatts of electricity. That is double Ethiopia's current power supply. Now, the interesting part with this program or building of this Grand Renaissance Dam is that much of the $5 billion needed that they use actually to build the dam came from the citizens themselves, with high school students contributing also for as little as $6 each, more or less. My question to you is, should this type of financing be encouraged in Africa to fund large-scale renewable energy projects?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting project. I actually had a conversation recently with one of my former colleagues who did some study on this project. First of all, I think from the technical perspective, energy supply perspective, this is a great project that provides energy independence, the energy security for the country of Ethiopia. So from the technical perspective, it has a lot of value. I think from the social perspective, if people are buying into this idea, and sounds like the Ethiopians are very much supportive of this project, it also provides that social benefit to the region. And this type of financing, I think, built upon on top of the social support from the people is really a great model. I think from multiple perspectives. First of all, when people have the vested interest in the project, they have literally a share of the project. They are more encouraged and more willing to actually do things to support it in the long run. And also, it's great for capacity building of the local community. A lot of times when I work on World Bank or US TDA projects in Africa, capacity building is really a big component of every single project because you want to build a local workforce. You want people to have the technical ability to operate and maintain these projects on their own in the long run, right? So when people have vested interest in these projects themselves, they're more willing and interested to learn about these projects, learn how to operate a large hydro. So you get that community support to build up that workforce in the long run. So I think that's another really good benefit of this kind of model. And thirdly, from the financing side, these mega projects cost a lot of money. And whether you're borrowing from foreign entities, you're borrowing from within the country, that money has to come from somewhere and needs to be paid off in the long run. So when it comes from the local community, I think it can also serve as a kind of economic stimulator for the local region and for the people to utilize these resources and actually create more business opportunities, job opportunities for the local community. So I think from all of that, it's beneficial. Whether this model can be used for every single project, I would say there is probably a limitation because, with the magnitude, I think it's 17% of Ethiopia's GDP back in 2016. So it's a very, very large magnitude. So there's limited ability, financial, ability for the local community to take on projects like that without getting foreign support. But I can see this being a good model for small to medium projects as well.
Thank you very much. I know you have quite a bit of experience when it comes to Africa. From your experience or insight from the Africa economy, what would you say is the greatest hindrance to achieving sustainable goal number 7 on access to reliable and affordable energy for all by 2030? And what can be done to mitigate such a risk? Without achieving sustainable goal number 7, it's hard for us in Africa to achieve all the other sustainable development goals, maybe except number 17, on partnership, but it's hard. What do you think is the greatest hindrance?
I would say there are a couple of things from two different perspectives. One is from the technical perspective. I think the power grid infrastructure is not there, and these kind of systems take a long time to develop. And also it really require a regional or a country level vision for the government to develop a system like that can accommodate current and future development and future needs. So that oftentimes is a kind of a hindrance when I do technical due diligence or feasibility studies on hydro projects, because every hydro project has to tap into, an existing grid, or you have to build a certain level of transmission system. So so that is truly a big roadblock in some areas, especially as in remote areas. Another aspect from the social perspective or local workforce, I would say that local capacity building and technical expertise is sometimes a hindrance for the long-term development of these projects. Currently, I'm mentoring someone from Africa who is in a different renewable energy industry. But one thing that really struck me when I was talking to her is that her country does not have a basically supply chain for the equipment, and it doesn't have a well-established workforce that are trained to actually accommodate the growth of the renewable energy in her country. So capacity building is really a big factor, I think, that is a little bit lacking in some of the African countries. You need to start STEM education. You need to start training people on technical aspects of these renewable energy technologies when they're young, even, you know, start from elementary school, middle school, high school. Then by the time they are able to get fully trained in college or technical schools, they already know, they have enough knowledge to want to get into renewable energy industry and want to be trained in certain aspects. So that capacity building needs to start from, you know, younger ages and from, you know, starting now, or it's gonna be late.
Thank you so much, Ms. Yiying. We came to the end of our podcast. I just want to say thank you so much for your time. That was so helpful.
It's my pleasure. It's my honor to be here, and very glad to share my perspectives with the audience here.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.